Hello there. Oh shit! Oh no! Nah, it's fine. Why am I kind of like vibing with that princess from The Black Cauldron? Gosh, that movie really traumatized me as a kid. Welcome to a little series I want to do on my channel where I am op-shop chopping my clothing and reconstructing them and upcycling them and possibly making them worse. But it's all a learning experience. Hopefully I don't butcher too many innocent garments during this process. Today's video I'm going to be making some Reformation Inspired clothing. I thought Reformation would be the perfect brand to do this DIY for because what's more sustainable than buying sustainable clothing? It's making your own out of second-hand clothing and it will unequivocally be much cheaper. Wow, I love this one. It's so pretty. Okay, my bank account is shook. I'm so glad we're doing this DIY because I can't afford this. Okay, so I've just had a look through literally like all of this stuff and it's nice, but I kind of like that old stuff better, so I'm just gonna make a Pinterest board. So, sorry Reformation. So I finished making my Pinterest board and I want to make a DIY that's really simple so you don't need too many technical skills with a sewing machine, just so anyone can do it for any size. So I'm really focusing on things with elastic and something that can be adjusted to any shape. So now I just have to choose a few pieces that I can adapt into designs to make. Shouldn't be that hard. Oh my goodness. Here are the designs I ended up with. I took inspiration from their silk shirred top and I thought it would look really pretty as a dress, and also their classic two-piece sets. I really don't think this video would be complete if I didn't do a matching set. Lastly, I wanted to make a puff sleeve top. I had two designs for this dress, but I decided that the top would be more appropriate for my wardrobe, and I am just a huge fan of puff sleeves. So for the dresses I've chosen to upcycle, I've chosen these 3 dresses, and if you're asking, Caitlin, how do you have so many dresses? The op shops are closed. How did you get these? Well, sir, you have drastically underestimated my hoarding abilities. So for this first dress, I was kind of iffy about it. I just absolutely loved the print and that's what really drew me to it. It is slightly too big for me and it definitely looks like it's from the 2000s. If it fit me properly and was a little bit longer, I don't really think I'd be changing it. Okay, this is gonna be very overwhelming. Let's just freaking do it. Let's just get into this bitch. Okay. Shit. This first dress, I was really drawn to the pattern and the color of the fabric. I just thought it was really sweet and it would be perfect as a top. For this DIY, you have to have a dress that has shirring or some kind of elastic at the back or already fits you properly. This dress is a size or so too big for me, so I'm laying it down and cutting away the excess fabric. I left 2 inches at the end because I thought it would be really cute to have a little frill feature. Okay, so now it's time to try this on. But so far, it already looks like better. Now that that's done, we have to get out the most integral part of this whole process. This sewing machine. Oh, I measured the dress now top on me and I had to take it in by 3 inches, so I pinned the top and then straight stitched the sides. After trying it on again to confirm the size, I zigzag stitched 1 centimeter away from the seam that I just sewed, and then I cut the excess fabric off. I prefer to do the zigzag stitch before cutting because then you can be sure that the shirring won't come undone. After taking all the precautions, making sure it was secure, I cut the fabric. So I've just cinched in the boob tube and I have to say, it's looking pretty good. Like, for my first project in like the last probably 2 years, it's not bad. Okay, now I have to make the sleeves. Shit. Moving on to the sleeves, I took the rest of the skirt and turned it inside out, then cut down the side seams to get 2 equal pieces that would be turned into the sleeves. Just to make sure I had enough material, I placed it on my shoulders to see how much fabric would gather and if I could achieve the look I was going for, which happened to be just the right amount. This dress unfortunately had these adorable pockets that I had to take out and make the fabric flat. I was super sad about this, but it had to be done. I cut the pockets out, leaving a 1 centimeter seam allowance, and then sewed the fabric back together. I must say, I did do a pretty good job, even though I stared at this piece of material for like 30 minutes trying to figure out what the hell I should do. So if you do run into a problem like this, you're just gonna have to figure it out and do like a makeshift flat piece of material, but most dresses don't really have pockets there. Also, if you're not so experienced like me, when choosing your dress, make sure it has a busy pattern so your sewing mistakes aren't that visible. To make sure I got the volume I needed from the material, I chose a side of the skirt that was slightly larger in width, which also happened to be the side with the hem. At the time, I thought it was a good idea to put the elastic through the hem because it was already the perfect elastic size, but like any amateur, I would realize too late that this would be a huge mistake. But as you can see, my innocent self did not realize this dilemma when I should have. I measured my arm to the correct length and made 2 elastic straps. I clipped them onto a safety pin and stuffed them through the fabric, then I went to the sewing machine and I sewed them together. Make sure that the elastic is facing the right way when you sew them together because there is nothing worse than twisted elastic, let me tell you. Ooh, yeah, I was an absolute idiot because what I didn't realize that under my arm would be a ridiculous amount of fabric bunched up in a very unflattering way. Okay, so the top is looking really good. I have finished the sleeve, however, I didn't really take into account that you would need more material up here on the shoulder instead of underneath where the armpit is. So I did have to go back and take the sleeves off, which is why this top took me so damn long, but at least I know how to do it properly now. After that, I hemmed the frill and the sleeves. I also cut off the buttons and added some elastic to the bust to add a little bit more ruching, like my original drawing. What I ended up doing to fix the sleeve catastrophe was to unpick the sleeves, shim the elastic till it was flat on the sleeve armhole area, and then back stitched it on both sides in place. After that was secure, I cut a semicircle slightly larger than my underarm, then sewed down the seam to turn the semicircle into a V shape. Then to finish it off, I zigzag stitched the edges. After pinning the sleeves back to the top and making sure the sleeves volume was no longer looking more bloated than me when I have gluten, I stitched them back onto the top. Then I measured my upper arm with more elastic where I wanted the puff sleeve to sit, making sure it wasn't too loose so that it wouldn't look like a deflated balloon or not too tight that my arm would turn purple. I did realize though that there was going to be too much fabric for the elastic, so I ruched it up underneath the sewing machine foot where the center part of the sleeve was, and once I was pleased with that, I cut away all the excess thread and I was done. Oh, why now, please? Oh, shit. Another day, another basic white top and jeans outfit, and another semi-breakdown later. We have finally completed the top. She looks pretty good from the distance, just don't get too close. A little bit like me with makeup. And here is the final result. Design, ambitious. Sewing skills, mediocre. End result, mind-blowing. I am so proud of this top. It's my first project in such a long time, and the fact that it's something I would actually wear just makes me scream internally. I mean, doesn't that just look like I'm wearing a $200 Reformation top? Okay, maybe don't answer that. I made this? What? But I must say that this top is like probably one of my favorite tops that I own. I love this print. It looks like a miniature version of a grandma's curtain, if you know what I mean. Like, just look at this print. It's so cute. It's really hard for me to find tops that will actually stay on my shoulders. Normally they just fall off like this during the day and then I have to continuously pull them on my shoulders. Hey, it's actually not falling down. This could also be worn as an off-the-shoulder top. There you go. Before you all ask, yes, I am wearing this top for the rest of the tutorial because I am very pleased with how it turned out. So for this next one, I really wanted to recreate this top. It is, I think, one of the more expensive tops because it is 100% silk. This next dress, I feel so bad for butchering because I know someone would absolutely love this, but I need content. So to the chopping block it goes. I particularly like this dress because of the linen and the lime green color, and I've been eyeing off some green dresses, so I thought that this dress was absolutely perfect to destroy and hopefully make it into a slightly better dress. You can easily take a few meters of fabric and still be able to do this design. However, I wanted linen, and 1, linen is an expensive bitch from fabric stores, and 2, it's so much more sustainable to get something secondhand and give it a new life. Also, if you're getting a secondhand dress, make sure it's 2 to 5 sizes bigger than your normal size so you get the shirring effect on the dress. It also means that you can just step into the dress without having to add a zipper or buttons. And this dress that I'm using for this tutorial is a size 14 and I am a size 8. I started off by analysing the top from Reformation, and I couldn't decide whether or not to use shirring or more elastic because the linen was a thicker and heavier fabric than silk. So I was worried I wouldn't be able to achieve the same result as the image. But my choice was already decided for me because I had only just realised I didn't even have enough elastic to use anyway, so shirring it is. I laid the dress down and cut straight across the top part of the dress. I decided to leave the zip in case I needed it for future projects, and also zippers are expensive as heck. I don't know if I'll ever use it, but you know, that's just what you call hoarding. I also removed the lining because it wasn't a natural fabric and I didn't really need it for this project. Now all we have to do is do 2 rows of shirring here, under the bust, another one here, and I would say another one where the waist is, and then leave the rest of the skirt. Then I took our tube of fabric and hemmed the top by 1 centimeter. I wound the bobbin with elastic, not too tight but not too loose either, and you have to do this by hand. Then I sewed 2 lines of shirring along the top part of the dress about 1.5 centimeters away from the top of the hem. I then put the dress on and measured just under my bust and repeated the elastic rows. I realized that it wasn't quite working the way I hoped. I thought that the shirring wasn't strong enough for the fabric, or I had too much fabric for the shirring to make it fit me. I had pretty much given up at this point, but I had to be strong, so I unpicked the dress and tightened the bobbin and tried again, with unfortunately the same results. And after spending nearly another 2 hours unpicking, I tried again with a longer stitch, and what do you know, it worked. It only took me like 6 hours to figure out how to make a dress that should have taken me less than 2 hours, but at least I got there in the end. So of course I made this stupid mistake of using a shorter stitch instead of a longer stitch. I'm gonna have to unpick all of it and do it again. Learn from my mistakes. Just remember to do a long stitch and wind the bobbin with slight tension. After that, I continued and did another 2 rows of shirring 2 inches apart from under the bust. Also, a huge thing that helped was steaming the shirring when I was done. That shrunk the elastic and made the dress fit me so much better. I then had to make spaghetti straps, which just took me an absolutely ridiculous amount of time. These are honestly Satan, and I never want to do them again. It had princess seams throughout, so there was lots of seams to get the safety pin over. I made the straps by sewing one straight line 1 centimeter away from where I folded, then cut the excess material off. I then thread a strong piece of string through the top of the fabric with a big knot at the end. This stopped it from being pulled through. I shimmied the pin through the fabric and all was going well until the string broke. After my mini tantrum, I started again with extra thick thread. After it was pulled through, I gently tugged the material to reverse it with the help of my handy dandy scissors. Some of the seams from the original dress became undone while I was tugging on the fabric, so I just hand stitched them back together and it was as good as new. These bloody things took me 1 hour to make. They ruined me. But they turned out okay, so I will stop complaining. And here we have the final look. I am so happy with how this one turned out. I thought out of all the designs this would turn out to be the most disastrous mess, but it actually ended up being my favorite. After I made it and put it on, I was just dancing around the house listening to ABBA, and it was just such a fun dress to dance in. And also, it was just incredibly comfortable. I mean, you could probably mistake me as Shrek because this is a lot of green, but nevertheless, it has done a serious glow up from 90s lime mum dress to eclectic French chic dress. I mean, Reformation, if you need a designer and seamstress, my number is 610. And then this next dress, I do love it already, and it already really reminds me of Reformation, but it did remind me of those skirts that you see all the time that just has some shirring at the waist, and I thought that this would be a really good DIY because anyone can go to an op shop and find any of these skirts and just cut the bottom and add some straps. So I wanted to get something like this that would be really easy for anyone to find. When I tried it on, it just isn't amazing. I wanted to turn it into something that is a little bit more Reformation looking than it already is. Hopefully I don't ruin this dress because I really like it. And this dress, some grandma has definitely made herself and then gifted to her grandkids, which didn't appreciate her hard work and skills and never wore it, and then donated it without a second thought. Well, hypothetically, I always make stories about things I get secondhand. Does anyone else do that? Please tell me you do that and I'm just not some weird person that gives their clothing backstories. This 2-piece DIY is definitely the easiest out of the bunch, so I implore you to give this one a go. I first removed the dress's straps, I measured my bust and then added 3 inches and then cut this dress into a top. I went to the sewing machine and sewed a large hem of 1.5 inches, which is what we needed the 3 inches for. I left a small opening for the elastic that I measured just above my bust. After using a safety pin and pulling it through the fabric, I sealed the hem shut. I laid the top flat under the sewing machine foot and then I top stitched just above the elastic. I couldn't see the elastic obviously, so I had to use my fingers to feel where it was. If you're worried about accidentally catching the elastic, you can use pins to secure it in place. I would have done this, but I am just too lazy. After that was complete, I tried the top on again and realized that the back looked very unflattering, so I decided to continue the shirring on the back. So I have finally finished the shirring. That took a bloody long time. I have made a few mistakes that I have to fix up just in the back, but everything else is going pretty well. So I just have to sew on these straps and then the top is done, and then we have to move on to the skirt. Ooh. Once I was happy with that, I straight stitched the straps, try saying that like 10 times, back onto the top, and it was done. Okay, so now that the top is done and I'm very happy with it, we have to move on to the skirt. It literally is just a big square of fabric. I was planning on getting just a thick piece of elastic and do pretty much what I did with the elastic on this top. However, I don't have a thick piece of elastic and it is not a priority to go out and get that. I don't even know if the craft stores are open. So we're just gonna use the same elastic I used on the top for the skirt. I probably won't even be wearing the skirt very much, so if it doesn't turn out that great, I will just wear the top, you know. I got a good top out of this. For the skirt, I made sure I could get in and out of it, pinned it, and then cut away the excess fabric. I then repeated the elastic steps I did on the top for the skirt. I tried it on and then I realized it needed a thicker band around the waist, so I added another 5 lines of shirring. You could also continue shirring all the way to the bottom of the skirt for a tight fit. Personally, those silhouettes don't flatter my body shape, so I just went with the 5 lines. And here is the final look. I am really happy with this set, especially the top. I know I'm going to get a lot of wear out of this. Obviously, one of the best things about having a set is that you can wear it separately. So I styled it with this pair of jeans and with this white top. I'm just so proud of myself, even though there is no technical skills in this whatsoever. Literally, it's just shirring, but I am still happy with myself anyway. Honestly, one of the most fulfilling feelings is wearing something that you have designed yourself. Anyway, I hope you give these a go or design something yourself and give a crack at it, because it's just so fun, especially when you know what you're doing at least, and it's just so rewarding. And we are finished. Thank you so much for watching my first op, shop, chop video. Thank you for watching me go through these 3 days of absolute torment, not knowing how the hell to use a sewing machine and finally figuring it out. So that's great. I'm honestly so happy with what I've made. Like, can you believe that I have made this stuff? I can't, obviously. And I hope to see you next week. If I am here next week, who the hell knows? Okay, bye.